The next stop on our journey through the evolution of the drum set is 1890. Now in 1890, there was a really interesting new kind of music that was coming up that was kind of taking America by storm, and that music was called ragtime. Ragtime, okay? And what was cool about ragtime, it had this kind of new feel to it, this sort of syncopated feel that came from African American piano players and banjo players and guitar players. It had this cool kind of this sort of thing we call syncopation. And that made people dance, made them go crazy. They loved to dance to it. So ragtime comes up and it becomes really popular in the 1890s. And by the turn of the century into the 20th century, it becomes probably the most popular kind of music in America. So how were drummers involved with ragtime? Well, interestingly, we talked about in the previous segment that, drummers were still really in a kind of a marching scenario, playing a lot of rudiments. And remember, the drum set at this time really isn't a drum set that we had today. We didn't have ride cymbals, we didn't have crash cymbals, we didn't have big tunable tom-toms, we didn't have a lot of fancy hardware. So drummers really had very little to work with to create the rhythms that they were going to create behind ragtime. But one of the fun things that started to happen was that drummers began to improvise more. So even though you hear the sound of rudiments, now drummers are kind of getting crazy with it, and they were utilizing them all over the place and improvising with them with this cool new sense of swing. Another interesting thing that was happening around 1890 was that tons and tons of immigrants were flowing into America from all different parts of the world, many different countries, many different regions. So you had Asians coming, you had people coming from Turkey and Greece, you had people coming from Europe. And all of these different people were bringing their ethnic instruments with them. They were bringing their drum making technology, their cymbal making technology. And as a result of that, drummers that were here in America who were doing this ragtime drumming and playing these different theater shows and these new kinds of music that were happening started to borrow these ethnic immigrant instruments and add them onto the very basic drum set, which we had said basically just consisted of marching instruments, bass drum, snare drum, and a cymbal. So they started putting all that together and you get this cool new sound and feel called ragtime. These little contraptions that the immigrant groups were bringing with them to America and that drummers were borrowing, these started to become part of the very earliest drum sets. And of course, eventually, this term contraption was shortened down to traps. So literally, drummers during the last couple decades of the 1800s and the first few decades of the 1900s, right on up to about 1930, were called trap drummers. That's actually the way we didn't call it a drum set. We call it a trap set, and they were called trap drummers. Who could tell me what made a drum set a drum set?
The low boy.
Kick pedal.
Match grip.
The sock cymbal.
My name is Daniel Glass. I'm a drummer, author, and educator. In 1994, I joined a band called Royal Crown Revue. We were trying to figure out how to take the rebellious spirit of modern styles like punk and put it into big band and other roots music. We found out it was already there. I've been absorbed in this world ever since. I started researching the evolution of the drum set and the way that we play it. In the last dozen years, I've interviewed more than 60 different legendary drummers. I came to a startling conclusion. Perhaps more than any other instrument, the drum set is equipped to tell the story of America and American music.
All of
these immigrants coming from around the world brought their technology. Jazz music and pop music were one and the same. You could dance to it.